These are the 3 points of how to make progress. Now, these things are the very simple phrases, and they come from Confucian philosophy and Taoist philosophy, but because they're such simple phrases, sometimes it's very easy for people to forget them. And I'd like to just go over them in a little bit detail today. And this was something that my teacher lived by, and those of you who may have heard of him or met him also knew that he made a lot of progress in his life indeed, in many ways, not just in Tai Chi. Here are his 3 principles of success. You can use them in Taijiquan, you can use them in business, you can use them in self-development, you can use them in meditation, or just to develop yourself to become more heightened spiritually. The first one is to know yourself. And that sounds very simple. Everyone's like, yeah, I know myself. I know myself better than anyone else. But sometimes it's really not true, or we don't know ourselves as thoroughly as we think we do. And a lot of it is based on fear. We don't want to know ourselves because we have to then know all the icky, yucky, slimy things as well as the wonderful, glowing, golden things. And the thing is to know yourself, but without any judgment. So just like you would look at a rock, and you wouldn't have any emotional feeling about it, you wouldn't have any fear about it, you just say, oh, okay, this rock has these certain minerals in it, or this composition, or, whatever. The same way you want to look at yourself. Where are your flaws? Where are your polished facets? What things are you not good at? Are you not good with people? Do you tend to get jealous? Do you tend to have a lot of low self-confidence? Do you have a tendency towards procrastination or depression? Do you get angry easily? Do you try to please everyone? Do you feel that you're deserving and never getting what you need? Know yourself. What is it in you that makes you tick? What makes you competitive? What makes you feel fear? What makes you feel anything? And then on the flip side of that, what makes you productive? What makes you happy? What makes you feel peaceful? When do you feel like you've accomplished something? When do you feel at ease or at peace? Do you have some sort of a faith that you do practice or not? Does it help you or not? And how can you put that into play? Are you good with children? Are you good with animals? Are you good with computers? Are you good with visual things? Are you better at auditory things? Do you function better in creative things in the morning or in the evening? Do you tend to wake up too late and not get enough sleep because you're also going to bed too late? Or do you feel that when you finally do regulate your sleeping and eating patterns, you're functioning better? Are you afraid of change? What would make you change? What would happen if you did make these changes? Who would you be? That's really all that's entailed with to know yourself. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's a lot of facing fear and facing reality and then giving up the judgment that's often associated with it. Whether we think that's judgment that's coming from some external source or that's some kind of judgment coming from ourselves, from an internal source. So really know yourself. And you might have to take some time to really know yourself. You might have to go on a day for a retreat or just go away somewhere in nature for a couple of hours and sit down and talk to yourself or write it down. How does this relate to what you're trying to make progress in? Know yourself. The second point that he mentioned was do your best, but don't overdo it. And this is where most people have trouble. They take something on and they either go gung-ho over it and they just go no stops, everything just complete to the max, and then they burn out, or they meet an obstacle, or they've burned out their resources, and then they crash. That's overdoing it. And other people are afraid to take on too much, or afraid of the blood, sweat, and tears that they may have to endure for a little while, and that's not doing their best. And again, usually this is stemming from fear of some sort. A lot of times it's fear of the unknown, or fear of something you think may happen, or fear of a feeling that you don't want to feel. So you have to be careful about doing your best and not overdoing it. Physically, that's important too. A lot of people are very all or nothing, and that's kind of sad because it's a self-defeating behavior to have, and it's a self-defeating way to look at the world. And an example of this is if somebody's trying to do something in Tai Chi or something in Kung Fu, and they're pushing themselves and pushing themselves, and they push themselves day and night, and they push themselves so hard that they wind up hurting themselves. That's overdoing it. And then other people are afraid. You know, oh my goodness, I hurt my knee a little bit, or I hurt my back, or ooh, I feel a little soreness and stiffness. And instead of going somewhere and maybe getting a massage and drinking a little more water and eating properly and just resting a day or two, they just stop. And that's not doing your best either. Sometimes people also argue, well, do you always have to be your best? You always have to be dialed up to 10? And of course not. Sometimes doing your best is learning to relax and just let go. So do you have to do your best when you're out fishing on your boat? Or if you are playing softball with your kids? No, of course not. You just need to relax. You need to let go. That's doing your best in that situation. Because if the situation is recreation or relaxation, then the best you can do is to actually enjoy it, to accept it. The third point that my teacher talked about was each time make a little progress. And this is very important because sometimes you think just because you're doing something and you're doing well that you're making progress. But maybe you're just doing. Maybe you're just doing a lot of action, but not getting anywhere with it. And you need to be honest with yourself about that. Are you going around and around and around, or each time you go around you're also going up a little? This is something I had to face too because my teacher had passed on. And I had to think about, okay, all these things he gave me, all these things that he taught me, which had to do with the Tai Chi classics. Now, how can I take myself to the next level? What would he do in this situation? What would he do several years later? What would he be like? Where would he make progress? And I have to work on that myself. And sometimes you may have to go to another teacher, or sometimes you just have to take what you already have and work on that. Sometimes people are forever seeking for the ultimate teacher or the ultimate book or the ultimate program, and sometimes they just have to take what they already have in their toolbox and just start using those tools instead of accumulating more and more and more. Sometimes that's just another form of procrastination, when you think you have to keep doing something before you can actually do the thing that's going to help you make progress. You can take these principles, these maxims, and apply them to anything in your life. So again, the first one is to know yourself, but this means to really know yourself, and it requires some time and introspection and a very heavy dose of honesty. The second one is to do your best, but don't overdo it, and that's also where you need the reality check. And don't worry about what all your other friends or all your other colleagues or people of your age group or your particular education level, don't worry about what they're doing in society. If you always compare yourself to the masses, then how are you going to rise above them? You're going to just have the same problems that they have. The idea is to make progress. So sometimes it's a little scary because it's a little lonely. So do your best, but don't overdo it. So sometimes you do have to also throttle back. And then the third one is each time make a little progress. And you have to define what that means to you. All that matters is, what does it mean to you, making a little progress? What changes do you need to see? What do you need to feel? What do you need to experience? And the best way to get yourself to any of these points, 1, 2, or 3, is to imagine yourself there, to picture yourself there. And what would that be like? Everything is just brick by brick, piece by piece, and then it accumulates. And for that you need, I would say the things you really need most are persistence and patience. You have to know when to push yourself, when to be patient, and it's this constant internal guiding between the two, fluctuating back and forth all the time, between waiting and slowing down and pushing and speeding up. But that's life. That's the yin and the yang. And I hope that these points can help you in whatever you do undertake. Good luck.